Welcome to the Wisdom That Breathes channel. Across all our platforms, we try to share wisdom which is relevant and accessible to everyone. But on this particular platform, we go deeper into some of the ancient principles found within the scriptures. If you find some of the terminology difficult or inaccessible, then go over to our Keshava Swami YouTube channel where you'll be able to find other content which is perhaps more relatable. Thank you and enjoy the wisdom that breathes. Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. For the permission and blessings of His Holiness Bhajanaran Maharaj. Say something. Thank you so much. So today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto number 7. Chapter number 1, entitled The Supreme Lord is Equal to Everyone. And today we're reading from text number 3. So if you can repeat after me. Itina sumaha bhaga Narayana gunan prati Samsaya sumahan jatas Tadbhavam chetumarhati Itina sumaha bhaga Narayana gunan prati Samsaya sumahan jatas Tadbhavam chetumarhati Itina sumaha bhaga Narayana gunan prati Samsaya sumahan jatas Tadbhavam chetumarhati Itina sumaha bhaga Narayana gunan prati Samsaya sumahan jatas Tadbhavam chetum arhati Mataji's. Itina sumaha bhaga Narayanan gunan prati Samsaya sumahan jatas Tadbhavam chetumarhati Iti das Naha our Sumaha Bhaga O glorious one Narayana Gunan, qualities of Narayan, Prati, toward, Samsaya, doubt, Sumahan, very great, Jataha, born, Tat, that, Bhavan, your lordship, Chetumarhati, please dispel. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Shilesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. O greatly fortunate and learned Brahmana, whether Narayana is partial or impartial has become a subject of great doubt. Kindly dispel my doubt with positive evidence that Narayan is always neutral and equal to everyone. Purport. Since Lord Narayana is absolute, His transcendental qualities are described as one. Thus, His punishments and His offerings of favor are both of the same value. Essentially, His inimical actions are not displays of enmity toward His so-called enemies, but in the material field one thinks that Krishna is favorable to devotees and unfavorable to non-devotees. When Krishna finally instructs in Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Saranam Braja, this is meant not only for Arjuna, but for every living entity within this universe. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Ajnanatirmirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhisham Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. In our life, sometimes we get misjudged, isn't it? Sometimes people think something of us which is not actually true, and it feels very, very painful. But we should understand that who are we? Even the Supreme Lord can be misjudged. Here, the Lord is being questioned. The Lord is being doubted. The Lord is being scrutinized. Are you actually equal or are you partial? Narayan is being questioned. In the history of the world, even Krishna was questioned, isn't it? There was something that Krishna did which raised doubts, and then a false allegation was made against him. Anyone remember what that was? The Shamantaka jewel. Even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was misjudged, isn't it? When was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu misjudged? On a few occasions, actually. Can you remember any occasion? When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Jagannath Puri, then he was misjudged.
By Ramachandra Puri?
By Ramachandra Puri, yes. And even when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in the ecstasy, chanting out Gopi Gopi, even at that time he was misjudged. Why are you chanting? You should chant Krishna's names. Even the great devotees of the Lord, the preachers, the ones who come to give their lives to help others, even they are misjudged. In the history of the Western world, everyone knows that even Christ was misjudged. Even sometimes Srila Prabhupada was misjudged. This is the nature of the world. But the good thing here is that when there is a doubt, then the doubt is brought to the right authority and then discussed in the right way. And therefore the doubt is being brought here about whether Narayan is actually impartial, whether he's actually equal to all. Every single scripture has what we call a Paribhasa Sutra. A Paribhasa Sutra means a verse which is like the emperor verse. And this verse basically outlines the essence and purpose of that scripture. So does anyone know what the Paribhasa Sutra of the Srimad Bhagavatam is, the emperor verse? This is outlined by Jiva Goswami, yes?
1328.
Yes, 1328, very good. Ete chamsha kalapumsha krishnastu bhagavan svayam indrari vyakulam lokam mridayanti yuge yuge. So the first two lines say there are many portions and plenary portions, but Krishna is the supreme, the Bhagavan Svayam, the original supreme personality of Godhead. And then the second two lines are saying that supreme Lord Krishna, when does he come to the world? Indrari Vyakulam. Vyakulam means a disturbance. Indra means Indra and the demigods. And Ari means the enemies. So that Lord specifically comes to the world when the enemies of the demigods, i.e. the demons, basically create a disturbance. Then Mridayanti yuge yuge, again and again the Lord comes to basically kill them. So now the doubt here is that, is the Lord on a mission against the demons? Are they just like, the Lord is just like biased to just keep killing them? Is he actually impartial? So through this chapter, it will be explained that the Lord is actually equal. The first point that will be made by the narrators is that the Lord is reciprocal. Can we say that someone, a government that puts criminals into jail is partial? Is it?
Well,
no. Okay, well, I'm just saying yes. Okay,
no,
we're going.
yes.
You're going to say yes.
I thought you were going to say yes, that they were doing their job, and I was thinking just no. But anyway, so you're.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I was going to say that basically the government is basically just reciprocating according to how that person acts. No one is destined to go to jail. But if the person commits an act of crime, then the government has no choice but to interact with them in a certain way. And therefore the fact that some people are in jail and some people are roaming free on the beaches of San Diego is not the government's partiality, but rather it's simply a reciprocation to their usage of their own free will. And so the first point that will be made here is that the fact that the Lord kills the demons and saves the demigods doesn't show the partiality of the Lord towards the demigods, but rather it shows the Lord's reciprocity to basically interact with individuals how they want to utilize their free will. So that's a very simple point, very clear, that the Lord is reciprocal, not partial, but reciprocal. And the second point will be made, which is an even more interesting point, is that even when it seems as though the Lord acts towards the demons in a very harsh way or a strong way, that is also an exhibition of the Lord's mercy. In other words, the Lord's mercy can come in different ways. The Lord's mercy can descend to uplift and purify different souls in different ways. And therefore, It's all the mercy of the Lord. I think it was Srila Prabhupada who said this. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. He said the job of Krishna and the job of Maya is the same. Krishna comes in front of you and says, please come to the spiritual world, and invites you to come and bring you to the spiritual world lovingly like this. But if you decide to ignore that beautiful invitation of Krishna, then Krishna in the form of Maya comes round the back and gives you a big kick. So the essence of what happens is the same. You move towards the direction you need to move towards, but there's a slightly different path there. So in the same way, when the Lord acts in a seemingly harsh and strong way, that is also the mercy of the Lord. The ways of the Lord are difficult to understand. Sometimes the Lord, Srila Prabhupada said, Krishna, first he took everything away from me. Prabhupada said, I'm crying alone in the wilderness, a lone mendicant who had been stripped. Yasyaham anugranami. Krishna says, I take everything away. And then Srila Prabhupada said, and then later on, Krishna gave me everything. He gave me everything. So many devotees, so many temples, so much Krishna gave me. Sometimes Krishna will protect, and sometimes seemingly Krishna is not protecting. It's very interesting, when the Brahmastra was released on the womb of Uttara, and Parikshit was in great danger, then at that time the Lord came to protect Parikshit. But later on, when Parikshit was cursed to die in 7 days, then the Lord did not come. Then he allowed it. He didn't reverse anything. In both situations, Parikshit was being protected, but we have a stereotypical understanding of what protection is, and so someone may say, no, at the end he wasn't protected, but he was protected. But the Lord protected him in a different way, because the Lord had a bigger mission for Parikshit to fulfill. Sometimes Krishna will bring great success in our life, and sometimes Krishna will take many things away. Failure will come. But even sometimes those so-called failures are Krishna's way of bringing us to a greater success. So sometimes it's very, very difficult to understand how Krishna is working in the life of a devotee. Even when Yudhishthira and the Pandavas went to Bhishma Dev at the end of the Kurukshetra war, then even Bhishma Dev couldn't understand. And what did he say? Nahyasya karhichit papan puman veda viditsitam yad vijigyasaya yukta muyanti kavayo bihi. He said, who can understand the plan of Krishna? Muyanti kavayo. Even if you're a kavi, a great learned person, muyanti, you will become completely bewildered trying to understand Krishna's plan. Because Krishna does things in a way we can't always understand. One Christian monk, he reflects on his life and he said, God, I prayed to you for wisdom, and you kept sending me problems to solve. I prayed to you for love, and you kept sending me people who needed help. I prayed to you for happiness, and you kept sending me situations in which I had to sacrifice. Then he said, God, you gave me everything I needed, but nothing that I wanted. And so that is Krishna. Sometimes it's very, very difficult to understand. And here it seems very difficult. Krishna is showing so much aggression towards the demons. Yes, Hiranyakashipu will be killed. We were just in New York. And in New York there's the original painting, the first painting of Nrsingadev, ripping apart Hiranyakashipu. And I think that was the famous painting which, when they showed it to Srila Prabhupada, He said, good, more blood, more blood. There should be more blood, more aggression. So the aggression of the Lord is sometimes so difficult to understand, but it's another exhibition of the Lord's mercy. The Lord cannot be considered to be partial, because the first point was that He's reciprocal. The second point is that even when He seemingly acts in a strong way, ultimately even that is for the good. And the third point is that the Lord can never be considered partial, because He's always ready. He's always ready to bestow the mercy if someone changes. Srila Prabhupada often quoted this verse that Ram cites. Sakrideva prapannoyas tavasmiti chayachate abhayam sarvada tasmai dadamyetat vritam mama. The Lord says, it's my vrata, it's my vow, that even if one puts their hands up after doing so many sinful things, if one puts their hands up once and says, from this day on, I'm yours, then the Lord says, I relieve them from all sinful reaction and I accept them. And the Lord said this in relation to Ravan. There's a beautiful commentary on the Ramayana, where Ram is about to go with his warriors. Vibhishan has come over to defect to the side of Ram, and so they're about to go to conquer Ravan. And even before they go to conquer Ravan, Ram says, I will make Vibhishan the king of Lanka. But then the devotees of Ram, they come to Ram and they say, but you haven't defeated Ravan yet. What about if you go to defeat Ravan and Ravan surrenders? Then you got to let him be the king of Lanka. So Ram says, yeah, in that case, if Ravan surrenders, then I'll make him the king of Lanka. I'll make Vibhishan the king of Ayodhya instead. And then the devotees of Ram look at him and say, yeah, but what about, what will happen to Bharat? Because he's supposed to be the king of Ayodhya. Ram then says, no, I will make Bharat the king of Vaikuntha. And then the devotees of Ram come to Ram and say, but you are the king of Vaikuntha, what will you do? And then Ram says, I will become the king of my devotees' hearts. It's very beautiful. So the Lord was ready for Ravan to again become the king, if Tava Smiti Chayachate, if he put his hands up and said, from this day on, I'm yours. So in this way, so much opportunity is given by the Lord, and sometimes the Lord has to act harshly, sometimes He has to take away. Today we're remembering Vamandev, and that was the exact point, that Vamandev, the dwarf Brahmana, the Lord who came in that innocent, unassuming form, came in front of Bali Maharaj, and Bali Maharaj offered anything. And what did Vamandev ask for? 3 steps of land. I always wondered what was the significance of 3 steps of land. And then someone gave me an answer which satisfied me, but which I've not read in the scripture, but I'll tell you it anyway. Let me ask you first, do you know what the significance of 3 steps of land are? Why did Vamandev ask for 3 steps of land? Why not 4? Why not 2? Why not 10? Anyone know why? The explanation that I heard is that if anyone walks 3 steps, then the length of that is usually equal to your height. So the reason he asked for 3 steps of land is it was symbolic that what does a Brahmana need? A Brahmana doesn't need anything, just needs somewhere to lie down at night. Otherwise, what more needs are there? Everything else is being provided for by the Lord. So if you want to give me some land, then just give me 3 steps, because all I need to ultimately do is lie down. So that's the explanation I heard of 3 steps of land. But then we know those 3 steps of land extended. And the Lord came and he took away everything. Bali Maharaj was warned by Sukracharya, don't acquiesce to Vamandev's request, you will lose everything. But Bali Maharaj, he rejected Sukracharya. Yesterday we were speaking with Vijay Prabhu, and Vijay Prabhu quoted this verse, Gurur nasasyat, svajano nasasyat, Pita nashasyan, janani nashasyan, patish nashasyan, napatishcha shasyan, devim natachyan, napatishcha shasyan, na mocha yadya samupeta mrityum. So basically there are different types of gurus in one's life, but if those gurus don't help one to become released from material life, then they should be rejected. So the first natural guru in one's life is one's spiritual master, guru. So the example of rejecting guru is Bali Maharaj. He rejected Sukracharya. The next type of guru in one's life is Janani, one's mother. Can you think of someone in Shastra who rejected their mother because she became deviated? Parshuram, yes. The one that's often given by the acharyas is Bharat, because when Kaikeyi banished or asked for Ram to be banished, then Bharat rejected his mother. Then Guru Nashashat, Janani Nashashat, Pitas, who rejected their father? Prahlad, yes. Prahlad rejected his father, Hiranyakashipu, because he did not follow his father's direction. Then what is the next one? Pita Nashashat, mother, and then another one is the demigods, Devim. Who rejected the demigods?
Can we say Krishna?
Can say Krishna? Yeah, in one sense, yeah. The example interestingly given by the acharyas for this one is Katvanga. That's because Katvanga, if you remember, he asked how long do I have to live? And then he rejected all association with the heavenly planets and everything and just fully focused. And so he gave that up. Husbands, who rejected their husbands? The example given is the wives of the Yajnik Brahmanas. And then there is one group which is said to have rejected all of these. The gopis, yes. The gopis. So Bali, he rejected Sukracharya because Sukracharya was not giving him instruction, which would... And in that way, Bali Maharaj, he gave everything to Vamandev. So sometimes Krishna, even that was an exhibition of Krishna's mercy. Krishna is known as Hari. So he takes away so many things. In the lives of devotees, sometimes Krishna will take people away from your life. Narad Muni lost his mother very, very early, and then he became a mendicant, but then he had darshan of Krishna. Sometimes Krishna will take away your possessions. Bali Maharaj is the example. Sometimes Krishna will take away your fame. Sometimes Krishna will take away your health. Parikshit is the example. So in so many ways, sometimes Krishna will take away so many things. Therefore Krishna is known as Hari. But the amazing thing about Krishna's thievery is that when he takes something away, then he leaves you with the most valuable thing. Have you ever met a thief who steals from you and then leaves you with something more valuable? That is Krishna. Krishna is very, very kind. So in this verse we are meditating, remembering on how when we look closely at Krishna's character, Krishna's activities are not always understandable. One devotee, he says, when you can't understand Krishna, you should stand under Krishna. So when you can't understand Krishna, then you stand under Krishna, you take shelter of the words of Krishna, the devotees of Krishna, the name of Krishna. And when you stand under Krishna, you take shelter of Krishna, then maybe in the future you will really be able to understand the heart of Krishna. So Krishna is very, very kind, and no matter in what way he acts, sometimes his mercy comes in a very, very sweet way, and sometimes his mercy comes in a very, very strong way. But in either case, the Lord is always impartial and acting for the benefit of the living entities. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I'll stop there and see whether it's 8:25, so I guess we have 5-10 minutes for questions, answers.
8:45.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions or comments or anything you would like to clarify? No, you? Okay. Anyone else would like to offer anything? Any points?
Where's our
Questions?
There's a question.
I
There's a
got
question back there.
ethereal region. There's a guy who always pipes in.
Yes, thank you so much. Good morning, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I already asked this question before during Krishna Lounge, and the question is, if Krishna is always in a joyful and blissful state, why do we as human beings need to struggle?
Yes, if Krishna is in a joyful and happy state, then why are we down here struggling?
That's a big question.
That's a big question. There could be multiple answers to that, I guess. The first thing is that struggle has its role to play in life. I heard this story very early in my Krishna consciousness, and it always stuck with me. Is the story, I'm sure you've heard it, of the caterpillar that was becoming a butterfly. So when a caterpillar becomes a butterfly, then it has to break out of the cocoon. So this butterfly was struggling to break out of the cocoon. And the man very mercifully saw it, and he thought, let me help. So he slit it open very carefully. And then the cocoon was open, and then the butterfly was free, and then it began flying into the sky. But then after 1 minute, it came crashing down and died. And the man thought for a moment, and then he realized, oh no, that's the arrangement of nature, that the butterfly has to struggle to come out of the cocoon, because it then builds strength in its wings. And once it has that strength in its wings, then it can fly high in the sky. And so even the pain of this world has purpose. Even the obstacles that we face are filled with opportunity to elevate our consciousness. Krishna, as I said, he wants to lovingly take us to the spiritual world. Remember I gave the story? But then if we don't listen, then Krishna has to engineer some other way to bring us, to kind of jolt us out of illusion. And so they say the first class person learns by hearing. The second class person learns by observing. But ultimately, if we don't avail of those opportunities, then we have to experience the school of hard knocks. So the world is perfectly imperfect. We were recently, a couple of weeks ago, we were at Princeton University, and we gave a talk on this, that the world is perfectly imperfect. Because all the imperfection, all the struggle, all the difficulties, all the turmoil of this world, in one another sense is perfect, because it turns our mind, our consciousness towards where there is real happiness to be found. And so Krishna doesn't want anyone to struggle. Krishna doesn't want anyone to go through pain. But sometimes that is required in order for us to realize where real happiness is to be found. Sometimes you can only find out or search out what is real happiness when you're convinced what is not happiness. Does that satisfy your heart, or if you want to, no, it doesn't. Do you want to say something? Yes, Maharaj, yes.
You explained to her that Krishna is Satchidananda Vigraha, but guess what? We're not Krishna. Or you can take it.
Maharaj, please elaborate.
No, you elaborate. It's your class. I just want to give you some material to work with.
Okay. Yes, Krishna is Satchitananda Vigraha, and we are not. Of course, we are also Satchitananda Vigraha, but presently we are in a situation where we're not. Actually, it's very interesting. This every fairy tale ends with the words, "They lived happily ever after." And after some meditation on this statement, I realized this is actually Satchit Ananda. Because ever after means Sat, eternity. Happily means Ananda. And lived means sentience or consciousness, which is Chit. So even in the fairy tales, when they say they lived happily ever after, what they're actually talking about is Satchit Ananda existence. But in the material world, there is no Satchit Ananda existence, and therefore it is just a fairy tale, because no one lives happily ever after in the material world. But we live happily ever after in the spiritual world when we realize our nature as the same quality as Krishna, as Satchit Ananda. And so because we're living in this temporary existence, which is not our true home, it's again like, why do your parents tell you off? Because they want you to be happier. Why does the government punish the criminals? Because they want them to be better. So sometimes that level of experience is required to bring us out. Think about the times in your life when you learned the most. Was it in the happy times or in the times of struggle? Generally, for most of us, it's that which brings about a real transformation of consciousness. So the Lord is not like sadistic. He doesn't want everyone to just struggle and enjoy seeing like all the living entities struggle. Another beautiful analogy that Srila Prabhupada gave was this. In India, as I was mentioning yesterday, there are fans. And children always like to touch moving things. So what the mother does is the fan is running, then she turns the fan off. The fan slows down. And when the fan is fast enough to give the child some pain, but slow enough so that it doesn't inflict any permanent damage, then the mother says to the child, go. And the child touches it. And you think like, that's so unfair. Like, why does she make... But the idea is that once the child feels that little bit of pain, which doesn't cause permanent damage, but gives an experience, then the child will never try to touch the fan again. And in that way, it's the ultimate exhibition of mercy of the mother to tell the child, experience that pain. Because ultimately it saves them from a bigger pain. Now, of course, we look at the world and it's very harsh. It's what sometimes people have to go through in this world, we think that's a bit more than touching the fan. But then we have to understand that in the bigger, grander scheme of things, on the backdrop of eternity, even the difficult experience of this world, what they ultimately bring us to is something so much greater that even that little bit of pain is ultimately acceptable.
No, I understand. Thank you for this example. It's mother and kids are more relatable to me than the caterpillar.
Yeah. The mother and the kids are more relatable than the caterpillar.
question.
Okay, one and then.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Maharaj, for coming and blessing us. So I had this question that there are so many different types of seekers in the world, and from my experience I know that Krishna consciousness is the best one. So I wanted to know that are the other types of seeker, are they going to miss something at the end of their life? And also, is it okay to criticize, for us to criticize them in one way or another?
Thank you. So the first thing is that religion, what is real religion? Save pumsham paro dharmo yato bhakti radhoksaje. Religion is that by which one awakens love for God. So are we going to sit here and say that no one in any other religion has love for God? I think that would be a little strong. Clearly there have been saints, clearly there are saints even living now in different religions who have love for God. So then why do we think our religion is the best or our path is the highest? Simply because the amount of knowledge which is given about God within our literatures is so vast, is so intimate, is so intricate, that it allows one to develop a much more closer and deeper and more profound and more closer connection with God. And so, but at the same time, we can't discount that there are practitioners of other religious paths who also have love for God. But naturally, the more you know about God, about God's inner life, then the more naturally you'll be able to give your heart. So, but it's not for us to judge. We don't know, in other religions there may be people who had deep communion with God, also possible. And so is it for us to criticize them? No, we want to encourage everyone. We want to encourage everyone to be better lovers of God. We want to encourage everyone to be closer to God. And according to time, place and circumstance, we may do that in different ways. If someone is open and inquisitive, we may tell them that maybe you may want to explore. There's more here that may move your heart. And Srila Prabhupada, sometimes when he met people of other religions, he didn't tell them that. He said, just carry on doing what you're doing, but do it in a better way. So for a preacher, there is no cut and dry. There is no like one way, like, a handbook. Like if someone asks this, then make sure you say this. And in this situation, do this. Every preacher is sensitive. Every preacher does it through relationship. And therefore, in any given situation, we may relate to people in an appropriate way for the purpose of encouraging them. So a devotee doesn't want to put anyone down. A devotee always wants to uplift everyone. And how they do that in different situations may be different. Is that okay?
We can take one more. I think, Namisha, you had a question?
Yes. Hi, Krishna Maharaj. Thank you so much for visiting San Diego. This is maybe an off-topic question, but how do we deal with guilt? Because sometimes if we're reading Prabhupada's books, we're reading like a devotee is someone who always thinks of Krishna and never forgets him. And it's like sometimes a very high standard. And so just growing, as an aspiring devotee, trying to be our best, if we still have certain material attachments, how do we exercise compassion towards ourselves without becoming like, oh, it's okay, like feeling this way? Like, how do we not feel guilt because of what we want sometimes?
Thank you so much, yeah. One thing I share with people is that don't just see how far away from the ideal you are, but also appreciate how far you've come from where you were. Sometimes we're always seeing the ideal is there and I'm so far away, and it brings a sense of disappointment. But then sometimes we can also look where we are and say, you know what, I'm here, Where was I 5 years ago? Where was I 2 years ago? How the process has changed me. Okay, I'm not a pure devotee, but by the mercy of the process and the Vaishnavas, so much transformation has taken place. And when we appreciate that, then we get the encouragement and the inspiration that I am sure of the ideal, but if I carry on, I'll be able to make up that distance. And therefore, the mentality of a devotee is to feel fallen, but hopeful. If you have too much guilt, then you feel fallen, but you don't feel hopeful. So, therefore, guilt has its part to play in a way that, again, encourages us to go forward, and not in so that it kind of drowns us and kind of debilitates us. Basically, there's a real of where we are, and there's the ideal of where we want to be, and there's a gap here. So different people deal with this gap in different ways. Some people, they just leave Krishna consciousness so they don't have to think about this gap. Other people, what they do is they bring the ideal down. And they say, no, that ideal picture of a devotee doesn't exist. Like, let's just be realistic. It's here. And that makes them feel better. But none of these two types of approaches to removing this gap really fulfills the heart. The only thing we can try to do is raise the real towards the ideal. And therefore, one last thing I'll say is, as we're trying to go from the real to the ideal, just try to look for what is the achievable. So focus on progress, not perfection. So yes, I'm sure of the ideal and it brings guilt, but what can I do today to take a step towards that ideal? And if you keep taking a step every single day, if you keep progressing, then perfection is just a matter of time. But sometimes what we do is, in the name of perfection and focusing so much on that, we don't even try to do some progress. Like, I once met a devotee who was a 16-round devotee and he had stopped chanting completely. So I said to him, like, okay, just start doing 1 round a day. And he said, no, I just 1 round a day, like, that's neophyte. Like, I should be doing 16. I said, yeah, but now you're doing none. He said, but no, 1 round is neophyte, I can't do that. I'm only going to do it when I can do 16. I said, what are you going to do? You have to do something now. So if it's 1, start there, and maybe the discomfort of being a neophyte will get you to 2 to 4 to... But sometimes we kind of we're like all or nothing. Like, either I'm the pure devotee or I don't do anything. But no, there's something you can do to move towards that purity. So in between the real and the ideal, there's the achievable. And maybe we need to focus on that, keeping the ideal in mind. Some thoughts. Thank you so much. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.